Why, hello everybody, it's Robbie from Southern California, and we are doing the garden tour for the middle of March. We're still in winter, but spring is almost here. Look at this old zucchini from last year. It is struggling to try to throw fruit. Isn't that amazing? Unfortunately, there's two of them on there. Unfortunately, this will end up to be compost because I'm going to start this over. So let's walk through. I'm going to have to be honest with you. I have not done that much because I've been working on my special new garden. This is the driveway garden. And you know what? It may look pretty bad, but it's not that bad considering this is all left over from last year. This is from 2020. I've still got peppers growing. Look at this. Struggling with all the cold, but we still have peppers growing. This pepper plant, this is the black cobra, isn't doing that well. And that's okay. We'll see if it comes back. The eggplant's starting. We got flowers on that. Lettuce loves the cold weather, so we're okay on that. But look at this black cobra. Loaded with peppers all winter. That is a keeper. And there's even a tiny, tiny baby plant. Look at that. Came up on its own from a pepper that fell in there. So we'll definitely have to get that out and plant that. Here's the Malabar spinach from last year that went all the way to the top. We'll have to pull that all down and compost it, and that's okay. There's that tomato plant that my daughter gave me, the Goliath, and I just saw this morning as I walked out here and grabbed the camera, there's more tomatoes back there. Very funny plant. I've talked about that. That plant didn't do much for me at all last year. And then all of a sudden, all winter, I started getting a whole lot of tomatoes. There's the Leeks. They're doing good. Those are the ones that I got from Walmart. I didn't buy them. Walmart put them in with my groceries when they delivered it to the house. We ate the Leeks. I put the bottoms in there, and these are now ready to come in and make soup out of. Gary loved the soup. So let's kind of walk through here quickly because, like I said, I haven't really done anything here at all. I maybe spotted some lettuce here and there, and the lettuce is doing so good. I can't believe there's lettuce in there and celery. What I'm going to do here is carefully go through each storage container, each tote, and I'm going to decide which I'm not changing anything. Let's back up for a minute. I'm not pulling anything out, but what I will be doing is adding more kitchen scraps, garden scraps, because you want to build the soil back up for the spring. So that's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to decide which ones I'm going to build back up. And a few with walking onions that are doing really good, I may actually just leave them. I may do nothing. Maybe just put something on the top a little bit. Leaf matter. I'm not sure yet. So here, same thing here. I'll let the tomatoes finish, and once I get here, trimming the tomatoes back and then keeping the plant, but I'm not sure yet. So this is what's fun about your own garden. You decide what you want to do with your garden. And that's what I'll do. As I go through, I'll decide what's a keeper and what's not. Let's see here. Carrots. I've got leftover carrots that I planted. Look at that. So right now, I'm not going to touch this until I pull the carrots out, and then I'll decide what I'm going to do. Okay, here, this has been fun. These are the 3 storage containers that are on 2 folding chairs with the board. And this has got potatoes in there, potatoes in that one. And the potatoes are starting to die back. They're turning yellow, so we'll have to see what's in there. And then this has got the white onions. It's a regular onion. I told the story on that one. These onions growing in here were never seeds. They were never seeds. The white onion threw baby onions on the top. So I planted all the baby onions, not the seeds. There were no seeds. Well, there were seeds to plant, but I put those away. And I want to see if they're going to throw baby onions or if they're going to throw seeds. But I planted 3 cabbage in each one. And look at this. I've got cabbage heads, and there's no bugs on it. I was surprised. So I want to get them out and start using them. I know they're small, but I'm going to start using them, and then I want to concentrate on the onions. Now, what is here? I talk about it all the time. This is sow thistle. You can eat it. I do add it to salads and add it to my green drink, but I'm leaving it for the flowers and the seed heads for the goldfinches. You know, I really wasn't going to talk about this, but I'll touch on this real quick. There's a problem going on in the United States where salmonella has been going through a lot of songbirds, and they're not sure what it is, and I've done some research since I've read about it, and there's a bunch of different theories, and one of them is the winter was hard on them, so they lost a lot of weight, And also they're migrating now, and they're not in top format that they should be, and they're thinking that their immune system's down, and they're picking up bacteria problems because they couldn't find enough food. And food is what keeps everybody strong. We know that. That's why we garden. So that is why, as you walk through, you may have seen some sow thistle here and there. We don't pull it out, and we leave that for the birds. All right, let's go in the front yard and see what's going on in the front yard. And I'm going to have to tell you not much. We are now in the front yard. And you go, hey, this looked the same 2 weeks ago. You know, it does look the same, but not really. I'm starting to clean up. I still have all that soil that I've got to work with. But now I'm going to decide what I'm going to plant in here. I've put some geraniums in pots so I can kind of put them around for a little color. Cleaned up a lot of these plants. Look how beautiful the dinosaur kale is. And this one that obviously is a hybrid. Isn't that beautiful? So we've been eating greens as far as green drinks or stir fry. Been moving the blueberries out of here. I figured what's going on with the blueberries is it's too shaded. Let me kind of shoot you up in the air and you can see my pine trees that Gary wanted out years ago are getting really, really big. And I love the pine trees. So they are creating probably too much shade to grow vegetables in. But you know what? It's good enough for me. I'll wait until the weather warms up. The sun will go higher in the sky. And as it goes higher in the sky, it will pass them, well, somewhat, and then they'll get the sun from there all day. So that's okay. I still can grow a lot of squash and different things here, and I don't want the pine trees out. I really feel like I'm up in the forest with the pine trees, and the birds love it. So many birds are up there, including squirrels. But as you can see, it is cleaned up and ready to go. So it's not, like I said, that I have done nothing. Look in here. This is that unit that Gary promises me he's going to get the video up soon, how, you know, what he built. It's literally a puzzle, and this whole thing can come apart. I have put totes in here, and I have been filling the totes. So you can see what's going on is it's not empty anymore. They've all been drilled, so they've got their holes, and I'm getting it full of leaves, green leaves, brown leaves, whatever I've got as I clean up the front yard. And then I can top it with even the broken down wood chips that are here, whatever I want, and plant in it. I'm not in a big hurry to plant. I know, like I said, we're not even in spring yet. And here in Southern California, if I didn't even plant until the middle of April, I'll plant long before that. But if I didn't plant until the middle of April, our growing season goes on and on all through November. So I don't have to worry. If I plant too early, I risk, let's walk down here, I risk losing the plants, or they can get stunted. So there's a lot of different things that can happen to them. So I'm kind of waiting to make sure that our weather's better. I mean, we had it so hot, a couple weeks ago, and then all of a sudden we're back down to 40 degrees, hail. We had 3 hailstorms in one day. We had so much cold weather and so much going on that I would have lost a lot of plants had I planted them. See the tool? This tool is going to stay here. You watched me put this up last year. So this tool is going really, really good. And then, of course, I still have garlic, chives, and walking onions growing and everything. And so this is the back side of the front yard. I still have to go through that. It's got a lot of mint. And once this is all cleaned up, it should look really cool. And then here, Gary's building some sort of wall. I'm not sure. But when he builds it, you'll see it. And my ginger, turmeric, and stevia table. Yes, you're right. I did not do my harvest yet. I only kind of grab here and there when I need something. I am going to be doing a full harvest very, very soon. I'm going to harvest these 3 here, and then I'm going to harvest the whole table. I'm going to start with this any day now, I promise. This is the black turmeric, and I want to see what happened to it. I planted the whole thing last year, the little bulbils on the bottom, on the roots, the whole thing, and I left it. And it grew massive. It was so big. I want to split that off and have 2 or 3 different plants and see how it grows. I have not even eaten it. So this will be interesting to taste and try. But you know what? I thought about something. If I don't eat it, I've got trading power with some people I know that want it. So that might work out really good. And then, of course, here, this is the same thing, some extra ginger I had that I put over here. And then I will get that either moved there or find another place or set something up here. And in case you saw that, that is sugar cane. Gary's getting ready to plant it. My daughter bought black sugarcane, planted it, and apparently she ended up with almost a jungle, and they want it out. And Gary didn't want it at first because he used to have sugarcane. It needs a lot of water. And now he suddenly realized, wait a minute, I got a whole place I can plant it. So he's going to go get some more as they harvest out their sugarcane. And he just sat this in the bucket. He knows more about sugarcane than me. And then he's going to get this in the ground. And I think he's making a screen in his garden. So if you look over, all you'll see is a field of sugarcane. And then you won't see his garden. It'll be hidden with that beautiful black sugarcane. Okay, let's go into the main garden. Now we're in the main garden. I really need to change the title or the name of this garden. I think I'm going to end up calling this the bird garden, because this is the garden that the birds are all living in. They're here, I'm going to almost say almost 24 hours a day. Look in front of us. Can you see that? We've got a dove sitting there. Let's zoom in for a second because I'm standing just feet from them. Look at this. And then I'll tell you why they've got different trays today. And they're just sitting there. We have over, no joke, 50 species of birds that visit this garden. And it's turned into a real haven for them. So I'm thinking of, I'm not going to change it too much, but I'm going to cater more to the birds as we go. But of course, I still wanted a food garden. So let's continue on with what's going here. All right, this is that container that Gary found in the trash, dragged home. I haven't planted in it yet. But what we're doing is, you can see our kitchen scraps are in here. Yes, everything's full of water. We had a major rainstorm. We're still dumping water. But some of this water is quite valuable because there was compost in it that didn't, kitchen scraps that didn't get dumped in here. And so what I'm going to do is dump that water into a lot of totes because it's going to be like, oh my gosh, pure plant food, and the plants are going to go crazy. This is that last dinosaur kale, and it's gone. It's gone. I left this, instead of pulling it all out, it's going to come out at some point for the birds, because the birds climb on this, so I'm leaving that just the way it is, and I'm going to add a lot more plants in here for the birds. So we'll see as time goes. This was just running a second ago, and now we've got clouds that are covering the sun. So this is what's going on here. I've got my lemon verbena that is just starting to come back. It says spring is almost here. Look at that. Yep, in a matter of days we'll be into spring. And then here's the purple tree collard. That's the one I got on eBay a few years ago, 2-3 years ago now, and it kind of got skimpy. It did get a bigger trunk. You could see the trunk got a little bit bigger, but there's no way it can support itself in any way. So I haven't done much, but you can do cuttings off. These are all cuttings. Every single one can be a new plant. So it's doing okay. I've got it leaned up on the fence. I can do cuttings and continue to grow more purple tree collard, which can end up being a forest of purple tree collard, but it tastes so good. It really does. There's another tote. You get a lot of questions on totes. Let's turn around for a second. These totes here are over 5 years old. So this is the thing. If you go buy a tote, a storage container for $5 or $10, if you get a year out of it, it's good. And I'm going to say if you keep soil in it and you keep it watered and don't let it dry out, it will last for many, many years. Not much else is going on here. My mushroom plant looks a little yellow because the weather got really cold. It doesn't like it cold. This is the purple Dazzling kale. And then, of course, that's more purple. They are all different colors as they grow. Here's more dinosaur kale, red vein sorrels down there, walking onions. You're going to see walking onions everywhere. If you see onions in this garden, they're all walking onions. I'm going to take this apart and move this. That's where I had orange mint growing, this thing, and change a lot of this here. Now, this tote is the oldest tote probably on the property. It's bent, but that's my fault because of the purple sprouting broccoli. I'm going to take this out. Reluctantly, but I am going to take it out. I'm going to compost the whole thing. So what I'll do is I'll break a lot of this into big pieces and put them on the bottom of new totes, and it will slowly break down. And I'm going to get more things planted in here, more things that birds can climb on, and get more bird feeders. I'm concerned about a lot of birds that were lost in multiple states. It's not just California, it's Oregon, Washington, I think it said Nevada, New Mexico. There's a lot of places that birds are suffering. They think it's the lack of food. It's not that you can put out seed, because a lot of these birds that are having problems and issues need the insects. And if they can't find the insects, they're bigger insect eaters and seed eaters. Their system goes down. Unlike a hummingbird, if it misses a meal at night, it may not even wake up in the morning. But these birds, they can lose a lot of their body weight. They can go with very little food, but again, it puts a big stress on birds, and that's what's going on. So I think I'm going to end up really catering this year to the birds. We have residents here that live here all year long. We've got hundreds of yellow rump warblers, hundreds of goldfinches, and then, like I said, there's 50 species of birds. Let's look over here. Speaking of birds, I was so excited with that. You probably saw this on the last garden tour. Oh, my bucket of garlic and lettuce. I come out here and look at this. I can uncover this for a minute. Love my tool. You know how I love my tool. Tulle. Just took a great big piece. Okay, can't really do this one-handed, but here we go. I come over here. Everything was beautiful, and all of a sudden, the lettuce is all chewed up. Well, why not? They're coming here to eat seed. And then the other ones, the friends say, hey, look, we got salad and we got seed. So they start eating it, but they can't eat it with the tool on it, and they haven't bothered it. So I'm going to trim a lot of this off, the parts that they ate, and just let the lettuce make a comeback. The main thing I'm growing this for is the garlic. But yes, they will eat some of your food in your garden. And you can cover what you really want to save with tulle, and that's what I'm going to do. But, we have so much here. Everything you can see here, and again, this is a winter garden. Nothing's been planted yet this year. So everything you see is basically food except for the geraniums in here and some of the silk flowers. So that's the thing you got to remember is I haven't planted here and there. They're starving. It's winter. They come in, they look for insects, which is wonderful. This is what I want them here for. And then, of course, they eat some of their seed, the seed eaters. And then, of course, they're eating my greens, which could be anything. They eat the kale, a little bit of the collard, but oh my goodness. I've been growing a lot of lettuce this year, and they have discovered the lettuce. So that's a big thing to them. They don't have celery. So if you want to cover things up, maybe I should cover the lettuce with celery. They don't eat celery, at least not yet. Oh, and I was going to show you old Ronco trays. I picked them up at the thrift store. See the holes on the bottom? Well, this is because when it was raining so much, we had days of rain. The seed could get wet. They'll eat wet seed. Birds love wet seed. That's not a problem, but they don't want to eat it in water. So the water would get in there and drain out. So we could still feed them. We can feed them under the table, or we could just put it in there, and then of course it would get wet, but it would leak through the holes, and that's why that was good. These were filling up with water, and they can't, they're not going to eat food that is in 2 inches of water. So that's it. Let's see let's walk through here. We've got, this is more geranium back here, and then of course we've got the spearmint that's kind of gone wild everywhere. These are the water features that are going on and off as we get a little bit of cloud cover. I made that years ago. The birds absolutely love this. Walking onions. There's a seedling, probably a hybrid collared kale. And then, of course, that's oregano. I need to split that. There's too much in there and do something with that. But like I said, I haven't really done anything in this garden yet. I'm working on my rainbow garden, and that has been the main thing. And then this, I've only done one cutting, but I haven't done a lot of cuttings on this. This grows at times absolutely beautiful. Big round leaves. That is a hybrid, and I don't know of what. It's got to be collard, but some sort of kale is in there too. So I really want to keep that plant because the leaves are absolutely beautiful. Let's look over here. Not much here. Celery, that's the red celery. See how it's red in there? That is red celery. Yes, it's in a pot. You know how I layer, but here's the thing. You can't move that pot right now because the celery has set root in here. So I'll freshen that up. Yes, that's cracked. I know. This one's probably about 5 years old too. I think I got that one cracked. I used to buy a lot of mine at the thrift stores and they were cracked when I got them. But I also had a plant that was bending over in there and it cracked it. You know what? I think it's got another 1 or 2 years left in there, so I'm not worried about it. I could always empty it, move it, turn it, and lean that up somewhere, and that would stop the crack from getting any worse. But it's been that way for over a year now, that crack, so I don't worry about it. Okay, let's walk over here. Again, walking onions. There's some sweet potato that came up in my compost. Haven't dug it up to see what's really in there. And like I said, I haven't done anything yet. This is the mint. There's strawberry mint there, chocolate mint there, sage back there. And then there's some garlic chives back there. So, and there's the celery from last year finally dying out. Here I had told you, I think a month ago, that Gary was going to put a pond in here. So I haven't done anything either in here. I wasn't even thinking of doing anything in here. He said he was going to put a liner and put a pond. Okay, he changed his mind, and that's fine because I don't need a pond. I'd rather get buckets in here, leave the soil that's already in here, put buckets in here, and I can grow zucchini, cucumbers, whatever I want. It's off the ground. If a rabbit, comes, it's not going to bother it. And I think I'm going to set up something in there. I could even put a chair in there if I want to. So we'll see when I get there what I'm going to do. There are the green tree colors. Look how big they got. You've seen that one 100 times on all our garden tours. This one fell over. Let's get back here. I love when I can walk through. What you could see is it snaked all the way through and the whole thing fell over. It was so big. And then they started growing up. So I've got to do a lot of cuttings and get more of the green tree color going. Remember, you can't really buy tree colored seeds because you don't know what it's going to do. Tree colored has to really be done by cuttings, not seeds. So I'm going to do a lot of cuttings on that and then place them all over the yard. There's some more purple tree colors we're planting around. Look at that. This one is directly in the ground. See, not everything's in containers. My lemon verbena is in the ground. I've got walking onions in the ground. I've got another purple tree color down there in the ground. So if you say, hey, she plants everything in containers. No, I don't. Now this is in a container because it was. And I decided to just bring the pot over, plant and all. And that's the way it's going to stay. I have no problems with that. I like that because when I water that plant, I know it's going to get really good water. Because I water that, I don't have to worry about the ground. Now this is a cutting off the original big green tree color that was growing here. You saw this thing was, oh my gosh, 15 feet tall. It finally died. Now this is also a cutting, but this cutting, I don't know if this is going to make it at all. It was off the plant and it went into the ground. It kind of laid down on the ground and I covered it. And I don't know if it ever set root. So we'll see what happens with that. If it makes it, it makes it. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. No loss. But I figured I'll leave it right now and see where it goes. Garlic chives, see? Garlic chives on the ground. And then this little eggplant, I don't know if it's going to make it. So when I finish my rainbow garden, that is when I'm going to come in here and get serious with that. This is the old collard plant, the one I picked up at the 99-cent store. This has been here for years also, probably 5 years old. Probably will do cuttings off of that. And I want to clean this thing all up. Maybe move this bird cage. This bird cage, this is a bird feeder. We have a big bowl in there. So if a hawk does come by, he cannot swoop and catch any birds. The birds go in and out, they feed in there, but a hawk cannot. Hawk isn't going to climb in there, grab a bird, and go out. It doesn't work that way. They swoop. So if you've got problems with hawks, think about putting an old dog crate or something there, a feeder inside, and let the birds freely go in and out, and they're protected from hawks. Now, sure, I grow papayas in totes. Look at everybody needs to have about 10 papayas growing in one tote. Okay. I was growing something else in there a couple years ago. I don't remember what anymore. And the papayas, of course, it was a strawberry papaya that Gary had eaten. It was composted, and they just started taking off. And instead of doing anything, I left it. We have busted the bottom so the roots could go. This is a root. Look at the size of this root here. But you know what? It's a happy plant. I mean, I should say happy plants, multiple plants. We have been getting a lot of papayas off of these. This is not Gary's favorite. His favorite are the big ones. I don't know if they call them Mexican papayas, but they're beautiful and big like watermelons. These are small, and he just happens to like the other one better. But this is really, really nice. I did grab one the other day. I found out that if I pull hard enough, that's the only way to get it out. I do get a little bit of a root on some of these, so what's really odd is even though the seeds have been in here for years, there's still little papayas coming up from the bottom. I'm not sure if it's coming up from seed, if it's coming up from the root itself from these plants that are growing. The big one he had to cut back. The big one died on the top. But I may be able to transplant some, but we'll see how it goes. Because like I said, Gary likes the big ones that are outside this gate over there, and we'll get into that in a minute, so we'll see. Oh, real quick, I think I can show you. Look how beautiful the flowers. With the hailstorms and the cold weather, look at this. We've never seen this before. The papayas, all of them, started to seep this. It's not a sap. It's a, well, they have latex, I believe they call it. It's seeping. Now, we don't know if it's seeping from the cold or if it was seeping because it got hit by kale. That we don't know. Don't know enough about papayas to know what caused it. But it's not sticky until it starts to dry, but even it's not that sticky, just a little bit. So I don't know. We've never seen that before. It affected all the papayas. Like I said, it could have been something with the cold to protect the fruit. It could have been they were getting slightly damaged by all the hail coming down. But they all pretty much got it, so we're just not sure. So that's just an interesting thing that we saw here. And then that's it. The moringa is just starting to wake up. You can see some of the leaves. It's hard to see, I know, with the glare with the sun. But the moringa is, and we did not pick the pods, which we really should have done. But we don't need any more seeds. Oh my goodness. And then walking onions back there. Old tomatoes, some Malabar spinach, some old stuff. Probably will end up cleaning that off. And then this is just a Russian red, purple type kale. So I'll probably end up doing some cutting. See how tall this thing is? I think I'm going to do some cuttings off of that and then end up cleaning this all up. Gary doesn't have anything in his room. I mean, we can take a quick peek. There's nothing going on yet, but there will be in a couple days. See? He's got some of his trees in here. But there's really not much going on in here. And I want to put some seedlings to start in here because I was out here the other day. Let's go back out. And I went in there. It was cold. It was like 60, 55 degrees. I should say it was more like 55 degrees. I walked in there. It was 70 degrees. I thought, that's a place I'm going to hide out. All right. Then I've got the two totes here. Also older totes, as you can see, doing good and just overcrowded. So I've got to go through. This is bird damage. This is not insect damage. The birds sit on top. They eat it. The goldfinches are just crazy about it. So what am I going to do? Take it away? I'm not using it right now. It's not on my way. So I'm just going to leave it and let the birds chew on it. But they all chew on Swiss chard. And like I said, a lot of different greens. And they'll just sit there and they'll eat. So it's their food. I'm not eating it. If I was out of food, yes, I would do something. I'm not out of food. Let the birds enjoy themselves. And let's go out the gate. Look at my rosemary. And let's see what's going on here. Yep, that is my rosemary, which has been covered in bees. And the bees have been very, very happy with the rosemary. You've seen that a lot of times. Let's look very quickly at my rainbow garden because I still have to put the rest of the videos up that I have to put together so you can see what I'm doing. Don't look. Anyways, I'll just show you this real quick. Look at this. I've got strawberries growing. See that? You know why I'm excited? These strawberry plants are years old. They looked terrible when I dug them up. And I was surprised that they were going to do anything. We'll talk about that coming. It's coming along. This is the rainbow garden. And as you can see, things are still thrown all over because I'm still, well, it's not so much that I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with it. What it is I want to make sure when it's set up right so I don't have to take anything down. And what I have been doing this week is I have been getting the totes done. That was the first thing I wanted to do. And I have been successful to say that every tote is now pretty much done and ready to plant in. Didn't say I planted in it yet, see? I have to top this one off, but all the totes are now full. And they're full, pretty much, halfway with just stuff. Like I said, I want to save on soil. So I'll take native soil, I'll take kitchen scraps, old squash I've had. We're still eating squash from last year, and they've been beautiful. I couldn't believe it. So now I'm filling these up. Now, once I'm done with all of these, the way I want it, this is onions. Isn't that cool? These are just onions. These are not walking onions. My daughter bought some onions from somebody in Texas, and she swore by him. She said he was wonderful. She bought it last year, onions from him, and I guess this year too. We ended up getting, I'm not sure, close to 100, 150 onions. Gary planted most of them in his garden, but I took a whole bunch. I know a few of you are screaming, too close, too close. You know what? Too bad. No, really, seriously, I know they're too close. We ended up with so many, but it doesn't matter because if I need a small onion and I see one of them, oh, I need this one, I'll just pull it out, which gives more room to the other ones. It doesn't hurt them. I did it last year. I did it the year before. I pull out a small onion and then give the other onions next to it more room. If there's a hole, reach down on the ground, grab a handful of soil and fill the hole up after you pull the onion out. It works. It works for me. Let's put it that way. See here too, I haven't really done anything except I've gotten layering this. I don't think there's anything under this. No, there's nothing in there. It's just a bunch of leaves and stuff from the garden. This saves me money on soil. I've talked about this over and over. If I was going to fill each one of these up with store-bought soil, and let me stop right now and say there is absolutely nothing wrong with store-bought soil. It's wonderful if you want to use that. It's great. You're going to grow lots of plants, but here's the problem. I can't afford it because one tote could cost me anywhere from $10 to maybe $40, if not more, to fill up. If I was going to get, let's say, organic, expensive soil, one bag could end up going in there. So I can't afford that. In the meantime, the way I do it this way, you've seen it if you go back and look at my old garden tours. We grow a ton of food all along the wall back there. Just by filling it all the way up with stuff from the yard, like nature does it, and then topping it with a little bit of potting soil if you want. Gary doesn't use potting soil, by the way. You've seen his garden. He doesn't use it in anything, not even his totes. I put a little bit of potting soil on the top, give it a jump start, the seedlings, and you have seen that we have grown massive, massive food in what nature has provided us. And the more you grow, and don't worry if it dies, the more you've got to grow in. So if something dies, it didn't work out, that's your compost. That's you're going to put back in your tote. So it works out. So there's no loss. There's no loss at all. But the onions are in there, and then I don't know what this is. Something coming up from my compost. I don't think it's a squash because I did not plant squash. I planted zucchini here. So we'll see how the weather is. And then, of course, I've got my buckets. That's kind of too big to layer, and I only set it here for now. I've got a use for this. You'll see later what I'm going to do with that bucket. But these small buckets, these are little 2-gallon buckets. This is what I use for layering. And it works really good. See, when you're growing like here, this is not going to stay. This is parsley. I've got a place for it soon. Here is lettuce growing, and then this is garlic that I spotted in there, and then this is walking onions. I'm still not sure what I'm going to plant in here. There's a tomato plant, and this is just for, layering. I don't see anything here right now. A lot of times I lift it and it's full of earthworms. They go up and down, so I use that for layering. So let's say in the summer it's a really hot day, it's going to be wet under there, and the plants can send some of their roots there to gather up some of the water, and that's what I talk about all the time. So these are done, so it's not like I haven't done anything. I have been really working, and then of course I've got walking onions, well labeled, walking onions here, and this, I've got zucchini. I've got 2 zucchini. I don't think, no, not yet. I can see in there, there's nothing there. We can take a quick peek, see? There's nothing there yet, so we're waiting to see. I think it's a little early, and I can tell you, isn't that cute? Yes, we're getting to that. I'm working on projects, haven't worked on anything since you saw it last. They're just sitting there. But this has been wonderful. I've got a different idea of how to do that anybody can do. Oh, I brought the blueberries here. I brought that up before. The blueberries are going to go in there, all 3 of them for now. The holes I made, which you can see there, which will water. The fig tree that somebody pointed out will end up breaking the house down. So you worried me, and then Gary said, no, don't worry. If it gets too big, he'll chop it out. We'll see what happens. Right now, the fig tree is going to be perches for the birds to come in. I don't know if I want to put seed here yet, but I might. But once this is all planted up, the birds will come here. But anyways, as I was saying, I think it's too early to really start planting it. And the reason I say that is I threw a bunch of squash seeds in here, in this particular tote, and they're not growing yet. Now, these are just squash that grew in our yard, so they hybridize with zucchini and other things, and they grow kind of odd, but they still taste good. I know that when the time is right for the plants to grow, I can't stop this stuff. That's how I know I can't stop it. I'll come out here and everything's growing. It's coming up because I use fresh compost, especially if it's too close to the top. If you don't want it, make sure your kitchen scraps and your seeds are further down so they won't make it to the top. But I have a lot of good compost in there and kitchen scraps that are still close to the top. And when it is right, I know it because the places I'm dumping the seeds, they will just grow whether I want them to grow or not, which is no big deal. You take a shovel, you take it out, and you compost them. They're not growing yet. So I don't want to rush and put all my time and effort into trying to get seeds to grow when it's not the right time. Remember, here in Southern California, our growing season is far longer than a lot of other places, and there's no hurry. And when the time is right, you come out here, plant a zucchini, and you've got zucchini in a matter of weeks. The plants are massive, and that's why I'm not in any hurry. We're still in winter. We're almost in spring, and we'll probably be more serious April Fool's Day. No, in April is when we'll be more serious. Okay, let's talk about papayas. Look at this. See, there's that. It's starting to dry up. All of them were covered with that wax. Gary called it a latex. All of them. And so we don't know, again, if all of them had maybe it was like an injury from all the hail. We had 3 hailstorms in one day, or if it was the cold. I don't know. We've never seen it. See, there's more back here. So, I don't know. I don't know. Nature provided some sort of protection for the fruit because the fruit looked fantastic. So maybe it was just a protection. Any place the hail hit it, they pushed out a little wax to make sure no water got inside the fruit. Maybe that's what it is, because if something penetrates the fruit, guess what's going to happen before it's ready? It'll rot. So it's some sort of protection by nature. Again, you all know about my papayas. We compost with every single tree. I know they're not a tree, but I'm going to call them a tree. When they get that big, to me, it's a tree. So the thing is, if you grow papaya and just have them stand alone, like a few people have told me they did and they didn't get any fruit, they are heavy feeders. Put a tote, a bucket, dig a hole, whatever, and throw a lot of leaves in there. Throw whatever you want that's going to break down, and the roots will thank you for it, and you'll end up with fruit. And if you say, well, that doesn't sound right, you think about it. You look at this, and in the wild, you know there's only one place that those fruit that are massive, this is Gary's favorite. He thinks I think it's Mexican papaya. I'll have to look up and see what the correct name is. These things get massive. They're like watermelon. What happens in the wild? They fall and hit the ground. And as soon as they do that, they burst open, they rot into the ground. And while they're rotting, the seeds are spreading, animals are eating them, pooping them out every place. Plants are growing in different places. But the plant is reaping the benefit of the rotting leaves and rotting fruit. So that right away lets me know that these are heavy feeders just because of the size of the fruit and where they would be going. Now, if they were on a hillside and it was falling down the hillside and rolling away, then I would have to think differently. But that's not the way they grow. So that's the way I think. So anyways, you know what? It worked. Started putting totes there because in the beginning we got no fruit. We got a lot of flowers, but no fruit. Once we put the containers and we started heavily putting compost in there with each one. Now, you can't just put compost in there and walk away. You have to water it. So it would be good if you put some pots or something in there, water it, treat your containers as if there are plants in there. If you want to just compost in there and feed the tree next to it, and you can do this with almost any tree, by the way. If you want to feed the tree, you have to water that. And you have to make sure the holes, we put them where they're going to be up above the ground, so none of the trees, the wild trees, like this beautiful pepper tree who loves to rob water and get its roots in the containers, cannot get in there. So when you water it and everything's breaking down, you're constantly providing plant food. So remember that. Look at this. Remember that. It's an orange tree. Is it going to grow oranges? Probably not. It came up in my kitchen window. I moved it out here. And then Gary had some of these beautiful little rocks he made, and I put them around there. I'll probably replace that with a papaya at some point. Maybe in the ground instead of a pot. So that's it. Okay, now let's walk over to the chair garden because there's nothing else going on. Here's all the chairs that we got for free. You've seen that. Still trying to figure out if I'm going to paint them, what I'm going to do with them. And then we got the glass table. Yes, we got those wonderful chairs too in the trash. We haven't bought any. We've got them all in the trash. These were in the trash. The buckets. I don't know what to say on the buckets. I stole those buckets. Oh my gosh, I stole the buckets. No, I have a whole video on me stealing those buckets. Don't worry. I let them know I was going to steal them. The neighbor said it was okay. But it was more fun to just go there, creep into the bushes and steal their buckets. Those buckets, and we'll talk about that when we get more into container gardening on another video. The reason I wanted those buckets is they were sitting under a tree for close to 10 years. And I wanted to see what condition they were in, out in the elements, and all three of those buckets are in wonderful condition. The only thing I have to do is get them apart. But they've got a good number on them. I can grow in them. I'm not sure if I'm going to put any fruits or vegetables or anything in there. I might put flowers. I don't know, but yes, I took them from the neighbor. What I did is I called her. I said, you got these buckets under the tree. She said, oh, are they yours or mine? They're mine now. So anyway, she told me to take them. Nectarine. This nectarine tree was planted in the yard by seed. That is probably one of the only stone fruits that I can think of that you can plant by seed that throws fruit. We had a big old nectarine tree that died years ago, but it was dropping nectarines all over. And the fruit was falling to the ground, rotting in the ground, and they were growing trees. And we couldn't believe within 2 years, we would have nectarines on these little trees. So I moved one of them over here. And maybe this year, last year, if you saw it, we moved it the winter before. So this is its second blooming here. I only got one flower on it. And now we'll see what happens. But I don't know. We've gone through such freezing cold weather. I don't know if it's going to do anything. Remember, you've got to have enough time for bees to pollinate. And then the weather's been so cold. So if these flowers don't take, what I'm hoping is maybe it will set another set of flowers. I don't know. But either way, you know what? The tree's making a beautiful comeback, and I'm quite happy with it. Going to move that. That's going to go into my rainbow garden because I still have basil growing in there from last year and sage and tomatoes, walking onions. So that's going to be moved, and I'll use the chairs for something else. This is that avocado tree that came up on its own in the wood chips. I am still thinking about grafting. I have to really study grafting before I start chopping up the tree. And then these are the apple trees that I was growing on my deck from seed. Really, truthfully, if you want to get apple trees and be serious about it, you really want to get a grafted tree. And maybe I'll graft these. If they get really good, I can just graft off of each branch. Gary's got some good apple trees, and I can graft that way once I know how to graft. But if you're going to plant in your yard, the best thing really is always to get a grafted tree, because even if one of these were lucky enough to grow fruit, it could take 7 years. But if you get a grafted tree or graft, you can get fruit right away because you're putting an old tree on a young tree is what it is. And they won't fruit until they're about 7 years old. Okay, now we're in the no, it's not the rainbow garden, it's the chair garden. I haven't done anything. As you can see, nothing has been done. So everything you see was planted last year. And you know what? It's still not bad. Every single tote in here, all of them, drains really well. Not one of them got blocked up. As you can see, look at the pots from all the rain and everything. I haven't even watered this in a week. Every single one drains really well, and nothing has collapsed. So what I'm probably going to do, again, is go through. I may not touch this one right away because it keeps growing lettuce, and I've been pulling all the lettuce out, transplanting them, and as soon as I transplant them, I get great big lettuce. So I probably will leave that. I've got celery growing. That's fine there. Celery there. Got a seedling of probably a broccoli. So I'm going to leave a lot of this, but the tomatoes, no. I'm going to pull the tomatoes out and start over. Same thing in there. Here is a big parsley. Probably do the same thing, pull the tomatoes out. I don't even think I'm going to leave the eggplant back there. And start with something new when I'm ready. Got lettuce in small containers. The smaller the container, the smaller the lettuce. So we'll see. Now this one I'm going to keep. This is growing beautiful, beautiful tomatoes. So I will cater to the San Marzano tomato, which is in the pot. It was layered. I'm going to cater to that and leave that one. Here is where I took those old strawberries out. They were just here last year and they did nothing in here. I spotted some lettuce. So I'm going to see. I think when I come in here and really start planting in the next month, I want to get watermelon growing again here because we had watermelon last year in here. And of course, zucchini. Zucchini is my favorite squash. I'm going to do more zucchini than anything because I can bake with it. I can make, sweet stuff out of it, dinners out of it. Basically, I use zucchini instead of flour. I can ease up on flour and bake with blended up zucchini. So zucchini is my favorite. Zucchini takes on the flavor of whatever I'm cooking, and that's what I like. And then here I've got, again, just some tomato plants that are trying to come up from the bottom. This again is sow thistle, and I leave that for the birds. And I want the birds. We're going to get into why certain things are here like this. This is for the birds because the birds come in here and they remove all the insects for me. I don't spray at all. And then here is where I grew that beautiful watermelon last year. Actually, I had a watermelon plant there and a watermelon plant there. So again, I'm in no hurry, but the only thing I'm really working hard is working on the rainbow garden, which is on the other side we just passed. And that's the one I want to get set up so I can step back and start working on the other parts of the garden. The truck bed. Oh, we had dreams last year. Gary was going to build this up, get all kinds of squash growing, make a great big gazebo type thing over it. And we looked at it, it's like, who wants to put all that work out? We're trying to make our lives easier. And then all this beautiful Swiss chard and all the squash started growing. And I thought, well, we don't have to do that. So it wasn't anything I wanted to do. And look at this. Do you know those are still good? I came out here the other day and I picked one and ate it. That's rotting into the ground. If I don't get that out, we'll regrow. But you know what? That's okay. I think I'm going to spot this with buckets. Throw a bunch of leaves and things in buckets. Again, holes are on the bottom of every container I grow in. And I want to emphasize that because I get a lot of questions. Do you put holes on the bottom of your containers? Whether it's or in the containers, there's always holes. There's either going to, if you're planting in it, either the holes will be up a little or the holes will be underneath. But there's always holes. You have to have drainage. The plants in Southern California dry out very quickly because we don't get much rain. We really don't. So if I leave an inch or two of water on the bottom of any container, that's okay. If they don't want their feet wet, they'll pull their roots up. If they want the water, they'll go down and find the water. So it doesn't matter. But the main thing is you don't want the whole thing with water unless they're plants that grow in ponds. So that's the thing. So yes, you have to have drainage. And if you're in an area that gets too much rain, and I know that there were some people on the East Coast they had a problem in their garden a couple years ago. The rain was so bad that they ended up, I had suggested get them into containers because they wanted to plant in the ground, but their ground was so soggy and wet and waterlogged that they were losing all their plants. Get them in containers because what happens is gravity pulls water down. And once they got into storage containers and the containers I grow in, it can't hold water. It has to go down. Unless you've got 2 feet of water in your yard, the containers will stay perfect for your plants as everything else is underwater. So that's why I love containers. You can use containers if you have too much rain, and you can use containers if you don't have enough. Let's walk over here and then we'll wrap this up. I know Gary's been working here and he's about ready to finish up this pond. Oh, that's why he's got to put a liner. It's cracked. And he just put a liner in here and he built those. He now makes beautiful rocks. He's making his own rocks. So he put a liner on that, which means now I can get out here and plant. He told me not to plant in the bricks until he finished, and it looks finished to me, don't you think? And I don't know what he's doing here, but there must be... Oh, there's things swimming in here. This must be his fish. Oh, there's a poor bee. Let's get the bee out. Okay, we want a longer stick because I don't want to get bit. Let's get the little bee out. Let's see. Hopefully you won't say, oh, did you do that to me? Okay, now he saved a bee that fell into the water. And that's it. So he's going to explain how he makes his rocks. I know he's got a lot of work to do, and he always tells me that's the problem. He wishes he could just do videos. Oh, look at the fish. Oh, look at that. And there's my fountain going. I thought I was going to have to clean it the other day because it wasn't running, but it is running. And then this is a bathtub that somebody gave him. And that's basically it. So we've gone all the way around. And this is going to be a lot longer than I thought. But you know what? For the few people, I've had them saying, hey, we wanted a long one. You got a long one today. Sit back, watch. I'm so excited that we are going in the spring. And I'm hoping that means drier, warmer weather. I am a wimp in cold weather. I could blame that one on my mom. My mother never let me go outside without a sweater. I wasn't allowed to run barefooted. And it could be 65, 70 degrees and I still had to wear a sweater. So until it was 80 degrees, I wasn't happy. And now that's probably why I can come out here in my yard. It can be over 100 degrees and I am out here working and loving the weather because I love the warm weather. I could not live in snow. Bless you all that are, because I don't know if I could do that. But the hot weather, I can just take that anytime I have hot weather. I love it. I was painting a house once, many, many years ago. Somebody came up to me. Yes, I was painting the house myself. And they said, "Did you know it's 106 today?" And I said to them, "Yes, and I'm loving it." So with that, I think we've done a lot. You've got to see all the way around here. We'll do Gary's garden soon. And just in case you noticed, I am being followed by a stranger. My granddaughter is doing something, a project for school, so she's following me around, and she might even learn something today from me. In other words, how my mother, her grandmother, overdressed me. So with that, have a wonderful, wonderful day. And don't forget to eat what you grow. Bye-bye, everybody.